The gallery reacted with a ripple of shocked murmurs. Brandon rolled his eyes dramatically. "Ugh, can we not exaggerate?" he muttered, loud enough for half the room to hear. It was a tap, barely a scratch. Luis's jaw tightened. "My bumper was crushed, the side panel bent, and he drove off." And Brandon sat up, offended. "I didn't drive off, I left. There's a difference." Judge Judy's gaze snapped to him. "Mr. Mercer, you will not interrupt. When I want to hear from you, I'll look at you. Until then, keep your comments to yourself." The courtroom went very still. Brandon froze mid-retort, mouth half open. He lowered himself slowly back into his seat, muttering something under his breath about wasting time. Luis continued, encouraged by Judy's intervention. "When I found the damage, I checked my neighbor's camera. It caught his car speeding away. I confronted him later, but he wouldn't even let me finish speaking. He just said, 'My dad will fix it.' Like that made it fine." The camera would zoom in on Luis's hands. They trembled, but not from fear. From the exhaustion of being dismissed by someone who thinks consequences are optional. Judge Judy asked, "Do you have evidence?" Luis handed over printed photos, high-resolution shots of the caved-in bumper, tire marks, and a blurry frame of Brandon's distinctive sports car disappearing into the night. The rustle of the papers was the only sound as Judy flipped through them, her expression sharpening with each page. Brandon shifted in his seat, visibly irritated. "This is ridiculous. I told you already, my insurance—" "Stop." Judy didn't raise her voice, but it sliced clean through his. "You are not in your father's office. This is my courtroom, and you will behave as such." A low murmur of approval rose from the gallery. Brandon clenched his jaw, tapping his foot rapidly now, impatience giving way to a flicker of unease. Judge Judy looked back at Luis. "Continue," Luis swallowed. "The thing is, I don't think he was alone. And when I tried to bring it up, someone called me, someone telling me to drop the matter. They knew details only someone at the scene could have known." A hush washed over the room. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Mercer, are you prepared to testify under oath that your version of events is accurate?" Brandon leaned forward, forced smirk returning, too quick, too rehearsed. "Oh, absolutely," he said. "I've got nothing to hide." The crack in his voice said otherwise. Brandon's smirk lingered, but only for a breath, because when Judge Judy repeated the oath with slow, deliberate clarity, the room felt colder. "Under penalty of perjury, Mr. Mercer, do you understand?" His confidence flickered. Brandon finally nodded, though the motion was stiff, like someone agreeing to rules he didn't believe applied to him. He placed his hands on the desk, sat up straighter, and cleared his throat dramatically, as though preparing to charm an audience instead of facing consequences. "Tell me what happened," Judy said. Brandon began spinning a story so polished it almost gleamed, too smooth, too rehearsed. "I was driving slowly, responsibly. It was dark. I barely tapped the car. The damage must have already been there." He shrugged, smirking again. "Honestly, this whole thing is blown way out of proportion." Luis lowered his gaze, jaw tightening. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow. "Slowly, responsibly?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And you're sure you didn't flee the scene?" "I didn't flee. I left. I thought everything was fine." The room shifted, tension growing like a tightening wire. "Mr. Mercer," Judy said, leaning slightly forward, "in Section 2 alone, you've contradicted yourself twice. Would you like me to list the contradictions back to you?" Brandon froze. His smirk evaporated. He opened his mouth, then closed it, apparently unsure which version of his own story he had already told. Luis stepped forward. "Your Honor, I have time-stamped photos from the neighbor's camera. They show him accelerating away. Fast," Judge Judy signaled for the bailiff. The photos appeared in her hands moments later. She studied them with a hawk's precision, eyes narrowing with every frame. They showed tire streaks, motion blur, a clear trail of recklessness. "Mr. Mercer," she said without looking up, "does this look like leaving calmly to you?" Brandon's knee bounced rapidly under the desk. Maybe the camera angle distorted." "Stop!" Her voice cut clean. At that moment, Brandon's phone buzzed loudly against the tabletop. The sound sliced through the tension like a blade. The screen lit up. He lunged for it, but too late. The preview line was visible to everyone. "Don't mention the other car." A collective gasp swept across the gallery. Judge Judy's head lifted slowly, like someone who had just heard the opening chord of a symphony she'd been expecting. "Other car?" she repeated. Brandon's face drained of color. It's nothing. A joke. My friends mess with me all the time." Judy extended her hand. "Give me the phone." He swallowed, staring at it as though it might save him or expose him. Then, reluctantly, he placed it in her palm. Her eyes scanned the message, her expression sharpened. "Mr. Mercer," she said, voice low, steady, dangerous, "I'm going to ask you once more. Were you alone that night?" Brandon's breath hitched. Before he could answer, Judge Judy lifted his phone higher, screen glowing in the courtroom lights. "Because this message," she said softly, "says otherwise." Judge Judy doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. "Bring me the phone," she repeats, and the bailiff moves like a shadow. Brandon's Adam's apple bobs as the device is placed in Judy's hand. The room leans forward, breath held, as she studies the glowing screen. Her eyes flick across the text, once, twice, then lift to Brandon with a new kind of sharpness, not just irritation, recognition. "So," she says calmly, "there was another car." Brandon's composure fractures. "It's not. You're taking it out of context." "Then give me the context." Judy's tone is icy, surgical. Brandon shifts, fingers tapping frantic Morse code against the table. He looks like someone trying to balance on a ledge that suddenly narrowed beneath him. It wasn't a big deal," he stammers. She? Judy repeats, pouncing. "You just said she. Who is she, Mr. Mercer?" The camera zooms in on him as he freezes again, calculating, panicking, trapped in the bright lights of truth and consequence. He glances at the back of the room, at the door, as if expecting rescue. No one comes. Luis watches, confused but alert, sensing that the ground beneath this kid is shifting. Judge Judy leans forward, elbows on the bench, hands clasped. "I will give you one opportunity," she says. "One. Tell me who was in that second car." Brandon's jaw clenches. His nostrils flare. The room is so quiet the hum of the fluorescent lights becomes a cold, metallic drone. Finally, he snaps. "Fine," he shouts. "It wasn't my fault, okay? She was driving like a maniac. I was just trying to keep up." Judy doesn't flinch. "Who was she?" Brandon slams his palm on the table. "My dad's driver," gasps explode from the gallery. Even Luis's eyes widen. Judge Judy doesn't move, but there is a shift, a small one, like a door opening behind her eyes. Brandon barrels forward with the desperation of someone who thinks talking fast will save him. "She was supposed to keep me safe. My dad said she answers to him, not to you, not to anyone." Judy's lips press into a thin line. "Are you telling this court," she asks, each word measured, "that a government employee was participating in an illegal street race with you?" Brandon hesitates, then nods, miserable, defiant, crumbling all at once. "Yeah. But she said she'd take the blame. She promised. My dad said he'd handle the rest." A storm of whispers swirls through the room. Judy raises her gavel. The sound cracks like thunder when it falls. "Order, and you," she points at Brandon, "are in far more trouble than you understand." Brandon sinks into a seat, suddenly small inside his designer jacket. Judge Judy fixes him with a stare that strips away the last of his bravado. "Mr. Mercer, if the governor's driver was there, then tell me, what exactly were the two of you trying to hide?" The gavel's crack still vibrated through the courtroom when Brandon shot to his feet, face flushed, voice cracking under pressure. "I didn't hide anything." But his panic said otherwise. Judge Judy raised one hand, not high, not loud, but with absolute command. "Sit." The single word hit Brandon harder than any shout. He collapsed into his chair, breath shuddering. The room around him pulsed with whispers, the air charged like static before a storm. Luis watched, stunned. He had expected entitlement, excuses, maybe even a lie or two, but not this. Not a governor's staff driver racing a teenager through residential streets, not high-level interference swirling around the wreck of his simple, hard-working life. Judy turned back to him. "Mr. Ramirez, continue." Luis rubbed his palms together, a nervous habit, but his voice grew stronger. "Your Honor, ever since I confronted him, I've been getting calls. From people I don't know. People telling me to drop it, saying it was handled, like it was some kind of political mess. Brandon flinched. Judy noticed. And these callers, she said, eyes narrowing, did they identify themselves? No, Luis answered, but they knew details about the car, about the damage, stuff only someone at the scene or close to him would know. A murmur rippled through the gallery again. Brandon leaned forward, shaking his head violently. That wasn't me. I never told anyone to bother him. Judy held up a hand. You will speak when spoken to. He slumped, frustration boiling at the edges of fear. The camera would cut to his leg bouncing uncontrollably beneath the table, the tell of a boy whose mask was cracking open. Mr. Mercer, Judy said, shifting her focus back to him, you admit the governor's driver was involved. You admit there were attempts, by someone, to interfere with Mr. Ramirez's pursuit of damages, and you expect me to believe you had no part in it? Brandon opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He looked suddenly like a kid cornered by consequences he didn't believe could exist. Luis exhaled slowly, the weight of months of intimidation finally lifting as the truth seeped into the room. And let me be perfectly clear, Judy continued, her tone tightening. Your father's office has absolutely no authority here. Influence does not override responsibility, not in this courtroom. Brandon swallowed hard. My dad said, your father, Judy cut in sharply, is not on trial. You are. The hush that followed felt like a vacuum, pulling the boy inward. His eyes darted toward the exit again, as if escape might magically appear. It didn't. Judy's gaze sharpened. You're twitchy, Mr. Mercer, nervous, guilty, and I have yet to hear you explain why all of this pressure was placed on a man simply seeking justice. Brandon blinked rapidly, chest rising and falling too fast. Judge Judy leaned forward, lowering her voice to a razor-thin whisper that sliced through him. Tell me the truth, Brandon. Did you instruct your father's staff to pressure Mr. Ramirez into silence? For a moment, Brandon doesn't answer. He just sits there, eyes darting, fingers trembling, lips pressed into a thin, defensive line. The silence itself becomes an admission. Judge Judy keeps her gaze locked on him. She doesn't blink, she doesn't soften, she simply waits, letting the weight of truth roll toward him like an incoming tide he can't outrun. Brandon finally exhales, shoulders sagging in a way that makes him look much younger than 17. I didn't tell them to threaten him, he mutters, voice cracking. I just said he was bothering me, and they handled it. Luis closes his eyes for a brief second, pained, not triumphant, not vengeful, just tired. Months of intimidation reduced to a teenager's careless complaint, a single spark that someone else turned into a wildfire. Judge Judy's tone sharpens. Mr. Mercer, words have consequences, especially when spoken by people with power. Brandon winces. His facade crumbles a little more with each passing second. Luis steps forward, his voice steadier now. Your Honor, I wasn't even angry at first. I just wanted him to take responsibility. But after the calls started, after people started showing up to remind me that the governor's office didn't want trouble, I felt scared, confused, like I was doing something wrong for trying to get my car fixed. A ripple of outrage moves through the gallery. Judge Judy leans back slightly, her posture shifting, not relaxed but calculating. And you, she asked Brandon, did you know your father's staff attempted to intimidate this man? Brandon shakes his head frantically. No, I just told them Luis was being annoying. I didn't think they'd actually do anything. Because that's how things normally work for you, Judy says quietly. Not accusatory, not cruel, just true. Brandon's breathing stutters. For the first time, he isn't angry, he's afraid. The camera would catch the moment, a fragile crack down the center of his arrogance. His hands clasped together, squeezing hard, knuckles whitening as he fights the urge to look anywhere but at the judge. Luis continues. Someone called at midnight once, told me the governor doesn't appreciate noise. Noise, as if I was some inconvenience they could sweep away. Judge Judy's jaw tightens. The lights overhead seem harsher now, casting Brandon's features in sharp, unforgiving lines. Mr. Mercer, she says, whether or not you intended for these calls to happen, they happened because you weaponized your father's position for your own irresponsibility. Brandon's eyes fill with a frustrated sheen, anger fighting fear, privilege fighting reality. He whispers, "I didn't mean for it to get this bad." Judy leans in, voice low and unforgiving. "You lit the match. Others brought the gasoline. But you started the fire." A tremor goes through Brandon's shoulders. The bailiff steps closer, sensing rising tension. Judge Judy straightens, eyes sharp, tone final. "Bailiff," she says, "bring in the next witness." Brandon's head snaps up, pure dread flashing across his face. He whispers, "Wait, not her." The side door creaks open before the bailiff even announces her name. A woman steps inside, hesitant, eyes down, shoulders tight, and Brandon's reaction is instant. No, she wasn't supposed to be here." Kara Thompson freezes mid-step at the sound of his voice. She doesn't look at him. She doesn't have to. The guilt, the fear, the conflict are written across her trembling hands as she approaches the witness stand. Judge Judy observes her with that piercing stillness she uses when truth is about to surface. "Ms. Thompson," she says, "state your name and occupation for the record." Kara swallows. "Kara Thompson. I'm the governor's staff driver." The room exhales as one. Even those who suspected it feel a jolt at hearing it spoken aloud. Brandon sinks lower in his chair, face pale beneath the expensive attitude he can no longer maintain. Judy nods once. "Ms. Thompson, do you understand why you are here?" Kara hesitates, voice cracking. "Yes, Your Honor." Luis watches her carefully. He doesn't know her, but he recognizes the weight she carries, the weight of being pulled into someone else's chaos. "Tell me about the night of the accident," Judy says. Kara's eyes flicker to Brandon, who shakes his head subtly, an unspoken command. She sees it and looks away, ashamed. "I was driving behind him," she begins softly. He called me earlier, begging me to come out. He said he just wanted to race a little, to blow off steam. I said no at first. I always say no. But he threatened to report me for negligence if I didn't show up." Brandon explodes. "I didn't threaten you. I just said—" "Silence," Judy snaps, the sound of her voice a hammer striking steel. Kara continues, tears welling. "I was scared. His father trusts me. My job, my reputation, everything depends on staying in line, so I went. And once we were on the road, he kept pushing me to go faster. He wouldn't listen. I told him to stop. I begged him." Luis's heart tightens at the word begged. Judy leans forward. "Did you see him hit Mr. Ramirez's vehicle?" Kara nods, ashamed. "Yes, he hit it hard. Then he got out, went to the driver's side, and—" Brandon slams his hands on the table. "Stop lying. You're trying to save yourself." But Kara doesn't stop. She turns toward him, voice trembling but steady enough to end the illusion. "You told me, Brandon. You said the damage didn't matter, that your dad would clean it up. You said nobody would question you." The gallery gasps. The bailiff steps closer. Brandon's face collapses into raw panic. He looks betrayed, cornered, desperate. Judge Judy's voice drops to a lethal calm. "Ms. Thompson, is there anything else this court needs to know about that night?" Kara wipes her eyes. "Yes, there is. Something I've been afraid to admit." The room stills. She inhales deeply, gathering courage. "Your Honor," she whispers, "there's something Brandon did after the crash. Something I never reported." Kara's voice trembles as she grips the edge of the witness stand, knuckles white. Judge Judy doesn't move. Brandon doesn't breathe. The air feels like a wire pulled tight enough to snap. "What didn't you report?" Judy asks quietly, too quietly. Kara swallows hard. Her eyes flicker toward Luis, then toward Brandon, as if measuring who deserves the truth more. Finally, she looks at Judy and nods once, a tiny gesture of surrender. "After the crash," she begins, voice cracking, "I tried to get Brandon to stay. I told him we needed to leave a note at least. Something. But he told me to relax. He said his father's office would make it disappear." Brandon's chair scrapes the floor as he lunges forward. "I never said that. She's twisting everything. But this time, nobody believes him." Kara presses on, words trembling out of her. "When I refused to leave, he got angry, really angry. And then he went back to the car he hit." Luis stiffens. Judge Judy's brows lift just slightly, an internal alarm going off. "What did he do at the vehicle?" she asks. Kara hesitates again, tears blurring her vision. "He leaned into it, reached under the dashboard, and he pulled something out, something small, like a memory card. Then he told me to keep driving and not to ask questions." A sharp gasp slices through the gallery. Luis's hands clench at his sides. "My dash cam," he whispers. The realization spreads across the courtroom in a shockwave. People turn, murmur, exchange stunned looks. Even the bailiff's posture stiffens like a man witnessing a line crossed he didn't expect. Brandon shakes his head violently. "It wasn't like that. It wasn't even recording. It was broken, I swear." "Mr. Mercer," Judy cuts in, her voice a cold blade. "If it wasn't recording, why would you remove the memory card?" Brandon freezes. The room holds its breath. His mouth opens, but the lie he was reaching for never arrives. His face crumples instead, part rage, part fear, part the dawning awareness that he has been standing on sinking sand since the moment he walked in. Kara wipes her cheeks, voice soft but unwavering now. "I didn't say anything because I knew he'd deny it, and because I was scared of losing my job. But when I saw the photos Mr. Ramirez brought, and when Brandon kept lying, I couldn't hold it in anymore." Judge Judy leans back slightly, calculating, assessing, preparing. Luis is frozen, torn between anger and relief. Evidence. Finally, evidence he never even knew existed. Brandon slams his fists on the table, a last wild attempt to regain control. "She's lying. She hated that job. The bailiff takes a step toward him. Judy raises a hand. Her gaze is unblinking. Her voice is final. "Ms. Thompson," she says, "in your professional opinion, what exactly was on that memory card?" Kara meets her eyes, steady now. "The truth, Your Honor. The whole truth." The room goes silent. "And Brandon knew it," she adds. "That's why he stole it and destroyed it." Kara's final words hang suspended in the courtroom like dust caught in a spotlight. Destroyed. The truth had been right there, recorded, captured, then shattered by the very boy now trembling behind his arrogance. Judge Judy's gaze sharpens with a new intensity, colder and more methodical than anger. "Mr. Mercer," she says, "I want you to tell this court where the dash cam's memory card is." Brandon swallows, a single bead of sweat sliding down his temple. I don't have it anymore," he mutters. "I told you, I lost it." Judy's eyebrow arches in a slow, devastating arc. "Convenient," she says. Luis leans forward, heart pounding. For months he'd lived in the shadow of uncertainty, wondering if evidence existed, if truth was on his side, or if influence and intimidation would erase what happened. Now he sees the boy cornered, exposed, unraveling. "Mr. Mercer," Judy continues, voice tightening, "that card could have proven exactly what transpired that night. You had a legal obligation to preserve it. Destroying it is not an accident. It is an action." Brandon's leg bounces uncontrollably beneath the table. I didn't destroy anything. I just misplaced it." The gallery responds with a wave of skeptical murmurs. Kara speaks quietly from the witness stand. "He had it when we left the scene. He said, 'Nobody's seeing this.' I heard him." Brandon snaps, "That's not what I said." Judge Judy lifts a hand. Silence falls instantly. "Bailiff," she says, her voice like a dropped anchor, "retrieve his backpack." Brandon's head jerks up, eyes wide. "No, wait, that's private." "Not today, it isn't," Judy replies. The bailiff approaches, every step measured, the room humming with anticipation. He picks up the designer backpack, heavy, stuffed, and brings it to the evidence table. The zipping sound cuts through the silence like a blade. Brandon rises to his feet. "You can't go through my stuff. My father will—" "Sit," Judy says without raising her voice. He sits. The bailiff begins removing items one by one: keys, a phone charger, expensive headphones, a crumpled energy drink can. Each object lands with a hollow thud, the emptiness inside Brandon growing more visible with every passing second. Then the bailiff pauses, reaches deeper, pulls out a small, hard plastic case, opaque, scuffed, unmistakably a memory card holder. Gasps explode across the gallery. Brandon's breath catches, his face draining to ghostly pale. Judge Judy's voice slices into the tension. "Bring it here." The bailiff opens the case. It's empty. Brandon exhales shakily, hopeful, too hopeful. But the bailiff isn't done. He reaches further into the bag and stops again. His expression shifts, darkens. Slowly, he withdraws another object, a second memory card, this one snapped clean in half. The gallery erupts. Luis's stomach twists. Kara covers her mouth. Brandon slumps backward, throat tight, lips trembling. Judge Judy stares at the shattered sliver of truth, cold, unflinching. "Mr. Mercer," she says quietly, holding the broken card up to the light, "what exactly were you trying to erase?" The broken memory card glints beneath the courtroom lights like a tiny corpse of truth, silent, damning, irreversible. But Judge Judy isn't finished, not even close. She folds her hands slowly. "Bailiff," she says, "continue searching the bag." Brandon shoots upright, panic detonating across his face. "No, that's it. There's nothing else in there." But his voice climbs too high, too fast, the kind of panic that tells a story all on its own. The bailiff doesn't flinch. He lifts the backpack again, turning it upside down this time. The remaining contents spill across the evidence table, a tangle of luxury and recklessness, a metal wallet, crumpled receipts from high-end boutiques, a portable speaker, a vial of expensive cologne that rolls to the edge before the bailiff snatches it. But then he pauses, slides his hand deeper into an inside pocket. The courtroom holds its breath as he pulls out a slim black pouch, sleek, zippered, the kind of case meant to store electronics, or evidence. Brandon surges to his feet, voice cracking. "Don't touch that!" Judge Judy's hand cuts through the air like a blade. "Sit down." He collapses into his chair, breathing in sharp, shallow bursts. The bailiff unzips the pouch. Inside, more memory cards, 3 of them, 2 blank. One with a faded blue label. The gallery erupts in a wave of gasps and whispers. Judge Judy raises her gavel. Crack! Silence returns instantly. "Bring them here." Brandon's hands hover uselessly in the air, like he wants to reach out and drag the truth back into the darkness, but knows he can't. His knee trembles. His face drains of all color. When the bailiff lays the cards before Judy, she studies them like artifacts of a crime scene. She picks up the one with the blue label, turns it between her fingers. "This card," she says slowly, "was stored separately, hidden. Why?" Brandon's mouth opens, closes, opens again. It's just old music," he stammers. "Just stuff." Judy's eyebrow lifts, razor sharp. "Then you won't mind if we examine it." His breath stutters. Luis feels his heart slam against his ribs, hope rising, fear mixing with it. Kara grips the edges of her seat, knowing what's coming. "Bailiff," Judy says, "hand this to the court technician." Brandon tries again, desperation leaking into every word. "It's private. You can't just—" "Mr. Mercer," Judy interrupts, calm as winter stone. "If it contains evidence related to this case, it is not private." The bailiff crosses the room. Each step is a countdown. The card is slid into a small envelope and handed off. A courtroom technician approaches with a secure device used for data review. Brandon looks sick. His hands shake uncontrollably now. Judge Judy's voice slices through the rising tension. "You hid this card," she says. "You separated it from the others. You did everything you could to keep it out of sight." Brandon's lips part, trembling. "It's not what you think," but Judy cuts him off, leaning forward. "Then let's see," she says. "Bailiff, load the contents of that card. If this is nothing, Mr. Mercer, the truth will prove it." The technician slides the memory card into the reader, and the entire courtroom leans forward as if drawn by gravity. A loading bar appears on the screen, slow, agonizing. Brandon's breaths come sharp and shallow, every muscle in him coiled tight. Judge Judy watches him instead of the screen. "Relax, Mr. Mercer," she says coolly. "If there was nothing on this card, you have nothing to fear." But his eyes, wide, bloodshot, tell a different story. The technician frowns. "The card's corrupted, Your Honor." A ripple of disappointment, frustration, and suspicion spreads across the room. "Corrupted?" Judy asks, voice level. "Yes. It looks like it was snapped in half at some point and then forced back into its casing. The data sectors are unreadable." Luis exhales shakily, hope slipping through his fingers again. Months of doubt, of second-guessing himself, all crashing back. Kara closes her eyes, whispering, "He really did kill it." Brandon seizes the moment like a drowning man gasping for air. See? See? It's broken. It doesn't prove anything. Judge Judy slams the gavel once. Crack! The sound hits like a bolt of lightning. You destroyed potential evidence, she announces, and the only reason to destroy evidence is fear of what it shows. Brandon's face flushes crimson. You don't know that. I told you it was accidental. Judy's gaze is unyielding. You expect this court to believe you accidentally broke a memory card, hid it in a secret pouch, and carried it into my courtroom. He freezes. Caught. Louise steps forward, voice barely above a whisper. Your Honor, if that footage showed what Kara said— It did, Kara interrupts, her tone trembling but certain. Brandon whips toward her. Shut up! The bailiff moves in instantly, warning flashing in his stance. Kara meets Brandon's gaze, tears streaking her cheeks. It showed everything. I saw the light on the dash cam. It was recording. It caught the way you hit the car, how fast you were going, your face when you realized what you'd done. Her voice cracks. And it caught you stealing the memory card. Judge Judy leans back, eyes narrowing with the precision of a surgeon about to make an incision. Ms. Thompson, she says, you seem awfully confident for someone who claims the footage no longer exists. Kara hesitates, once, then exhales, shoulders heavy with a secret she's carried too long. I never trusted that he'd keep it safe, she whispers. Not even that night. Brandon's head snaps toward her, panic exploding across his features. What are you talking about? Kara looks down at her trembling hands. I made a backup, she says, before he destroyed it. I kept a copy, because I knew someday someone would ask for the truth. The room erupts. Louise chokes out a breath. Brandon collapses inward, face drained of all color. Judge Judy's expression hardens, not with anger, but with clarity. Ms. Thompson, Judy says softly, where's that backup now? The courtroom doesn't breathe. Kara's confession hangs in the air like a lit fuse, small, quiet, but carrying enough power to tear everything apart. Judge Judy leans forward just slightly, eyes locked on Kara with a focus so intense it feels like the room tilts toward her. Ms. Thompson, she repeats slowly, where is the backup? Kara inhales shakily. On my phone, Your Honor. Encrypted. I didn't tell anyone, not even my supervisor. I knew what would happen if Brandon or his father's office found out. Brandon tips forward, gripping the table edge with white knuckles. You stole from me, he shouts. You had no right. The bailiff takes a single step toward him, enough to silence the outburst. Kara's eyes snap to Brandon with a flash of old fear. You threatened me, she whispers. You made me believe that if anyone ever found out about that night, I'd lose my job. Maybe worse. Luis feels something shift inside him, an unexpected empathy for the woman who'd been dragged into the mess by a boy who treated consequences like rumors that happened to other people. Judge Judy nods once, decisive. Bailiff retrieved Ms. Thompson's phone. Kara hands it over, trembling. The device is brought to the court technician, who inserts it into a secure port on the evidence monitor. Brandon watches like a man witnessing his own future, collapsing in real time. No, this isn't fair. He stands again, voice cracking. You can't use stolen footage. It's illegal. Judy slams her gavel once, a thunderous punctuation. Sit down. He obeys instantly, chest heaving, hands buried in his hair. The technician speaks carefully. Your Honor, the file is password protected. Judy turns to Kara. Ms. Thompson? Kara nods weakly and steps forward, whispering the password. Her voice is barely audible, but the moment it's entered, the courtroom screen shifts. Loading. A single progress bar crawls across the display. Every second feels like a fist tightening around Brandon's throat. Luis grips the railing, heart hammering, bracing himself for whatever truth is about to unfold. Finally. Access granted. A still frame appears on the screen. Nighttime. 2 cars side by side. Headlights glaring into the lens like shame made visible. Kara gasps silently. Luis sucks in a sharp breath. Brandon slumps, defeated but not yet collapsed. Judge Judy folds her hands. Play it. The technician presses a button. The footage begins. The courtroom is dead silent. Not a cough, not a shift of fabric, just the unfolding truth. The sound of engines roaring. Brandon laughing, Kara shouting for him to stop. Then, the crash. Metal slams, the camera rattles, and Brandon's face flashes in the frame, a mix of thrill and terror. The dashcam light blinks steadily, recording, witnessing, and then, unmistakably, Brandon reaching into Luis's vehicle, pulling out the memory card. Kara's voice cracks. There, that's it. Luis's eyes fill, not with triumph, but with something like relief so heavy it almost knocks him forward. Judge Judy doesn't react outwardly, but something in her posture tightens, solidifies. The footage freezes, and Judy turns to Brandon with quiet, devastating composure. Mr. Mercer, would you like to explain what we just saw? Brandon doesn't speak. He can't. The courtroom stares at him as the paused video screen glows behind his silhouette, a ghost of the truth he tried to bury. Judge Judy's voice slices through the stillness. Mr. Mercer, answer the question. Brandon's lips tremble. He looks at the screen, then at his own shaking hands, then at Judge Judy. It's not what it looks like. The gallery exhales in disbelief. Even the bailiff raises an eyebrow at the absurdity of the claim. Judy doesn't blink. Oh? Then why don't you enlighten us? Brandon fumbles. I grabbed it because the crash scared me. I panicked. I wasn't thinking straight. Luis watches him, not with anger anymore, but with something closer to stunned sadness. The boy who'd acted untouchable is unraveling thread by thread. Kara wipes a tear. That's not true, and you know it, Brandon snaps toward her. You don't know what I was feeling. Enough, Judy says sharply. The technician restarts the footage at half speed. Every detail is unmistakable. Brandon stepping out, looking around nervously, spotting the dashcam light, his face tightening, not fear, but calculation, then reaching inside and yanking the card out with aggressive force, frozen again. Judge Judy leans forward. Mr. Mercer, the footage does not show panic. It shows intent. Brandon's breathing accelerates. He clutches his hair. You're twisting it. You all want me to look guilty. No, Judy says, voice cold and precise. Your actions made you look guilty. A murmur rolls through the courtroom. Luis steps forward, emotion thick in his voice. Your Honor, that footage proves everything I've been saying for months. He didn't just hit my car, he tried to erase the fact that he hit it. Brandon slams his fist against the table, tears forming. I didn't mean to ruin his life. I just didn't want my dad to find out. You don't understand the pressure? Kara's voice is soft, shaking. We all understand pressure, Brandon. We just don't use it to hurt people. The words strike him harder than any gavel. He collapses into his seat, shoulders shaking. Judge Judy studies him, her expression shifting, not softening, but acknowledging something. The collapse of a persona, the exposure of a frightened, entitled boy who never imagined his choices would follow him into the light. The footage ends. The truth is whole now, irrefutable. Judy speaks, voice measured. This court now has clear evidence of recklessness, dishonesty, and deliberate destruction of property. Brandon's eyes squeeze shut. He knows what comes next. Judge Judy lifts her gavel, gaze unblinking. Mr. Mercer, the time for excuses is over. Now we move to consequences. The courtroom feels tighter now, as if the walls themselves have leaned in to witness the unraveling. Brandon sits motionless, shoulders hunched, his once polished confidence melted into something raw and unfamiliar. Fear. Judge Judy lays her gavel down gently, far gentler than anyone expects. Mr. Mercer, she says, you may speak. The boy looks up. His eyes are red, his breathing uneven. For the first time all trial, he doesn't seem angry or arrogant. He seems lost. His voice breaks. He swallows hard. I didn't want any of this to happen. Luis watches, hands clasped, unsure whether he's seeing sincerity or another performance. But this tremor in Brandon's voice, feels different, feels real. Judge Judy folds her hands. Then explain. Explain why a simple accident turned into months of lies, destroyed evidence, and intimidation. Brandon's gaze drifts to the video monitor, now blank but still echoing the truth it exposed. I panicked, he whispers. It wasn't just the car, it was everything. My dad's campaign was launching the next day. He said that year was no mistakes, none, especially from me. He laughs bitterly, a cracked, empty sound. I'm always the mistake. The gallery stills. Even Judy tilts her head slightly, not with sympathy, but with understanding, an understanding of pressure, of expectations, of children dragged into the shadows of powerful parents. Brandon rubs his face with shaking hands. I thought if he found out I messed up again, He stops himself, then continues, quieter. He'd look at me the way he always does, like I'm inconvenient. Kara lowers her gaze, guilt rippling across her expression. She wasn't just a witness. She'd been living in the orbit of that same pressure, the same expectation to keep the governor's world spotless. Luis exhales, softening despite himself. I didn't want revenge, he says quietly. I just wanted my car fixed. I just wanted respect. Brandon looks at him, really looks at him for the first time. I know, he says, voice breaking again. I know you didn't deserve any of it. Judge Judy nods slowly. The emotional walls in the room shift, justice no longer about punishment alone, but about truth finally acknowledged. But, she says firmly, fear is not an excuse for harm. You used your father's influence as a shield. You let others intimidate a hard-working man. You destroyed evidence. You lied to yourself and everyone else. Brandon nods, tears falling freely now. I'm sorry. I don't know how to undo any of it. You can start, Judy replies, by facing what comes next. He nods again, smaller this time, accepting or surrendering. The atmosphere thickens. The story's heartbeat slows, steady and heavy, a drum waiting for the final strike. Judge Judy lifts the file, weighing it in her hands like the scales of consequence themselves. Mr. Mercer, she says softly, this court is prepared to issue its judgment. She closes the file with a decisive snap. But before I do, there is one final matter we must address. The courtroom is silent, not tense, expectant. As if every person inside can feel that what comes next will not just end the case, it will define it. Judge Judy opens the file again. Though she doesn't look at the pages, she already knows the contents. What she's holding is not paperwork, it's the weight of consequence, the sum of every lie told and every truth fought for. Mr. Mercer, she begins, voice steady and measured, before this court delivers judgment, I have one final question. Brandon stiffens, wiping his eyes clumsily. Yes, Your Honor. She studies him, not with anger, but with a quiet, piercing honesty that leaves no space for deflection. What have you learned from this? A simple question, a devastating one. Brandon's face crumples. He stares at his hands, the same hands that snatched a memory card, signed excuses, carried entitlement like a second wallet. Now they tremble openly. I learned, he swallows. I learned that I can't keep hiding behind my dad, or anyone. I learned that I hurt people and didn't care, and when I finally cared, it was too late. Luis's eyes soften. He isn't vindictive, never was. He just needed accountability, needed to stop feeling invisible. Kara watches too, guilt shadowing her features but lifted slightly by the truth finally spoken aloud. Judge Judy nods once, acknowledging the boy's admission, but not excusing the harm. Good, she says. Now let's address the matter before this court. She straightens, posture gaining the full weight of her authority. First, Mr. Mercer will pay full restitution to Mr. Ramirez. That includes the complete repair cost for the damaged vehicle, reimbursement for the rental car, and compensation for lost work hours resulting from the defendant's actions. Brandon nods slowly, accepting. Second, Judy continues, this court is submitting a formal referral regarding the attempted intimidation and destruction of evidence. That process will proceed through the proper administrative channels. Your father's office does not shield you from accountability. The courtroom breathes in sharply. Brandon squeezes his eyes shut, but nods again. This time, not from fear, but from a growing understanding that accountability is not the enemy of growth, but the beginning of it. Third, Judy says, turning toward Kara, Ms. Thompson, your testimony was crucial. You will not face repercussions for choosing honesty. This court is forwarding a separate commendation regarding your cooperation. Kara gasps softly. relief shaking through her. Luis closes his eyes, a weight lifting off his shoulders for the first time since the night of the crash. Justice didn't erase what happened, but it restored something far more valuable: dignity. Judge Judy takes one final look at Brandon. No triumph, no cruelty, only truth. "Young man," she says, "consequences are not designed to destroy you. They're designed to teach you who you are when the shield of privilege disappears." Brandon nods, tears falling freely now. Judy lifts her gavel. "And in this courtroom," she says, "character, not status, is what defines justice." The sound echoes like a moral carved into the walls.